Hello, and welcome to a demonstration on how to use some functions of your Google Sheets. This is already done. Welcome to your Google Sheets demonstration. Google Sheets is a really useful tool that can be very complex, but also, no, dude, I didn't.
Our Sheets basics. I need to stop calling.
Welcome to your first Google Sheets demonstration. Google Sheets is a very powerful tool with a lot of functions in it, but what we're going to do today is focus on a few key functions that we're going to use for this assignment and that we're going to build on in the future. So what you did before this was you submitted a Google form, and I collected some of the data from the Google form. We have our self-assessed level of fitness, we have our pulse rates, and our resting pulse rates, and we have our active pulse rates after some exercise. So what you're going to have to do for this assignment is a little bit of data manipulation. And first what we're going to do is we're going to sort things. I want to sort all of this data in order of the self-assessed physical fitness level. So what I can do is I can click in cell A1 right here, and I can drag across to highlight all of my data. It's okay that I have a couple columns here that don't have anything in them. We'll get to that in a second. So I go up here and I click data, and then down to sort range. These are some shortcuts. These can get messy though, so I advise we use sort range. So the first row of the data is a header row, so I'm going to check that box. And then I want to sort by our self-rated level right there. And I'm going to click sort. So A is low, Z is high, so we click that, and look at that. It sorted this first row in order from 1 to 10, but it also sorted all of the other data that was in the row. So this row 1, all of the data in row 1 got moved. So we can highlight a large portion and sort all of it really quickly instead of moving things around by hand. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of math. Google Sheets. The next thing we're going to do is a little bit of math. Sheets is an excellent calculator, and you can ask it to do calculations by typing functions into the cells. So you type an equal sign, and then everything after the equal sign will be performed like a math equation. So we have our resting heart rate in 20 seconds. And we want to know what it is per minute. So there's 60 seconds in a minute, so I'm going to have to multiply this by 60. I can click on the cell and then use the asterisk button to make a multiplication sign, and then 3. So I just wrote an equation, cell B2 times 3, and when I hit enter, there's my output. If I take this and I copy Control C, and then Control V, and we look at the equation, you can double click to look at the equation that's in the cell. Now it's highlighting B3 times 3. And I get 23 times 3 is 69. So this is a really quick way to perform a lot of math. You can copy and paste the equation into each cell like I just did, or when you scroll over the bottom corner, you get that those little crosshairs. If you click and hold that and then drag it down, it will fill all of those boxes with that equation. So if you see right here, the contents of the cell is right there. See, we have B3. If I go down to the next cell, B4 times 3. If I go down to the next cell, B5 times 3. So we just filled this whole row with the row B times 3, or column B times 3. And we can do the same thing for our active pulse rate. Equal sign, very important. If you don't press the equal sign, it won't perform the math. And then I click on the cell that I want to multiply, put in my asterisk, 3. And again, I can roll over the corner, get my crosshairs, and drag it all the way down. So I just did 2 15s, there's 14 rows here. I just did 28 math functions in about 30 seconds. So Sheets can really, really speed things up for you. Another thing that we do a lot in math is we're going to be asked to calculate an average. So I'm going to type an equal sign, and then I'm going to type the word average. So an average, when you calculate an average by hand, you have to add up all of the numbers that you want and then divide by the total numbers that you have. In Sheets, all you have to do is type average, parentheses, and then you can use your mouse to highlight all of the cells that you want to calculate an average of. Close your parentheses and hit enter. Now we have an average of all of the resting heart rates. But look at that. That's not a happy number. No one likes to look at a number with 9 decimal places. So we can go up to these buttons right here. Increase decimal places, decrease decimal places. And we can, by clicking, lower the number of decimal places to something a little more manageable to look at. And we can do the same thing over here. Equals average, parentheses, highlight all of the numbers you want to average, close the parentheses, and hit enter. And you do the same thing. Highlight the cell that you want to edit, and then decrease our decimal places. Isn't that easy? So the last thing that I'm going to show you in this video, and the last thing you're going to have to do for this assignment, is create a graph. I know that you're all very used to creating graphs by hand. Sometimes it's time consuming, sometimes it's a lot of data points. It's really nice that we can produce very clean graphs very quickly in Sheets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Insert, Chart. There we go. So this chart doesn't have any data right now, but what I want to do is I want to make a line graph. I want to make a line graph. So what I'm going to do, whoops, uh-oh. I want to make a line graph. So chart type, when I have this chart selected, I'm going to choose line graph. And then the data range. So I just have this random cell E23. That was the last cell that I clicked on. So that's what's here in the data range. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to x-axis, and along the bottom of my graph, I want our physical fitness level. Okay. So I highlighted it and I clicked OK. Now, for the y-axis, called the series, I want our resting heart rate. Oop. Okay, so I accidentally deselected the graph. I just want to look at the data again, so I double click on the graph, bring the data back up. So I got my x-axis, and now I need to add a series. So I am going to highlight column C. Nope, it's not working. Greg, help me out. The last thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to produce a graph. So there's going to be a lot of things on the screen, but if you just follow the steps that I follow, you'll be fine. So to create a graph or a chart, you're going to click Insert, Chart. And you're going to click Insert, Chart. And you're going to get a blank chart with no data. That's perfect. So right now it says the data range is G12. Well, see, I just happen to have my cursor on G12. We can go ahead and delete that. The x-axis, we'll just put in there as a placeholder. The x-axis is what you want to define first. So I'm going to use my mouse. The last thing I'm going to show you how to do, is input a graph. So to get a chart started, we're going to click Insert and then Chart. So this brings up a chart that has no data in it. There's no graph here, right? But we can select the data that we want graphed. So the type of graph that we're going to make is a line chart. So if we click the Chart Type dropdown and then select Line. Right now the data range that is selected is just F18 because that is the cell that I had highlighted when I clicked Insert Chart. So we're going to change that. But first, let's define an x-axis. X-axis is the value across the bottom of the graph. Just like we did when we were creating our average functions, we can select a range using the mouse. Bam. Okay, so I have my x-axis defined. Great. So up here, we don't need that F18 anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now my only data range is the x-axis. And now the first series, it doesn't say y-axis, it says series, but this is where we're going to define our y-axis. We're going to add a series, and see this button here? It says select a data range. Click that, and we get the same window that we got before, and I want to see it against our resting per minute pulse rate. So I'm again going to use the mouse to select and click OK. And look at that. We have a graph of our data. It doesn't look super pretty though. So you know what I'm going to do is I am going to customize this graph. So under Customize and then Chart Access and Titles, we can define things. So the chart title, I'm to call this Fitness versus Heart Rate. And you can change the theme, the font, the color of your text. And it's not centered. I want it centered. I want to make that title look nice. Look at that. Now the title set, so let's do the horizontal axis. Along the horizontal axis, we have self-rated level of physical fitness. And then the vertical axis is resting heart rate. Okay. And there's a graph. And if you wanted to make a graph of resting or your fitness versus active heart rate, you could do the same thing, follow the same procedures. Insert, chart, and then select your data. All right, guys, hope this is helpful. Enjoy and reach out if you have any questions.